Hotshots, Jess with Emotional Fire Academy here today to talk about, is being sensitive a choice? A question posed by many people because it's a popular keyword, hence why I'm covering it today. Welcome to Emotional Fire Academy. My name is Jess. I'm a master NLP practitioner and former firefighter. And on this channel, we help highly sensitive people evolve into whatever they want to evolve into. So welcome, subscribe if you are an HSP, ready to do that this year. There's still plenty of year left. And welcome. This is a really interesting question. I think if you have been watching my channel for a while, you probably know what I'm going to say or have a good idea of what I'm going to say. Because I'm always going to encourage, yes, we always have a choice in everything in life. There's always more than one option. We're going to get a little philosophical about this and kind of dive deeper into the question. So I want to caveat this with kind of the dictionary definition of being sensitive, because this question is very vague. And in my video about why am I so sensitive and cry so easily, I'll put the video above. There are different nuances of sensitivity, right? There's suggestibility, there's insecurity, there's true HSP-ness in the terms of, your physiology and the level of perception that you're receiving. So sensitive in this, we have to kind of define sensitive. And so I looked up Merriam-Webster just out of curiosity. And Merriam-Webster says definition: easily offended or upset, and also quick to detect or react to slight changes, signals, or influences. So we're going to return to those definitions in a little bit. But to get back to the question, so is being sensitive a choice? So yes, my immediate answer when I sat down and thought about this is yes. It's a choice if you're aware that it's a choice, right? There's kind of levels here that need to be, or conditions that need to be met in order for it to actually feel like a choice too. So the first step is that awareness that there even is a choice. And the second step is knowing how to exercise the choice, because if you are aware of the choice but can't quite reach it, can't quite get to it, don't know what the steps to take to get that, you're kind of stuck in the known. You're stuck in the known choice and you see the other ones but you can't get there. So is it really a choice if you don't know how to get to the alternative? In that case, no, not really. You're still kind of in one place, adhering to what you know because you're not sure how to get anywhere else. And this kind of comes back to, what is your belief system about being sensitive? What do you believe about being sensitive? Now, I'm not sure if this, the people looking for this are trying to determine whether they're a highly sensitive person or they're still in the realm of one of those other things I talked about, suggestibility, insecurity. So it depends, on what you believe about sensitivity. What are the word sensitive, what comes up for you? What do you believe about sensitivity? And for people who give power to, and this is not a judgment, for people who give power to sensitivity as like a thing, a real thing, and just assume it as a absolute truth, then there is no choice, right? You either are or aren't. It's kind of a very binary, if that's what you believe. And there are people out there that believe that. I used to be one of them. A few years ago. I didn't know that there were alternatives. I just assumed, I knew something was different about me. And this is often this narrative. Listen to see if this is you. I knew there was something off about me or different or special. And then I read the description of a highly sensitive person and I was like, oh, that's me. It's a very self-identifying thing of like, oh, this is what's wrong with me, or different or strange or unusual or odd or special. And so back when I was just like, okay, I am this, period, right? That was kept me unaware of my choices, but I didn't realize that was happening to me. I didn't know any different. I hadn't been introduced to manifesting or NLP or any of the things that I now know. And so I was kind of blind to the other options, because the truth, what you adhere to as truth, is the only truth that you know, because you just assume that it is truth. And so at that point, if somebody had told me, okay, just be happy, if I was upset, if I had been easily ruffled by something, and someone said, okay, just be happy, I would have thought that preposterous, because I didn't know that, and again, I was giving emotions power. I just thought emotions were a thing that took me over, and I just assumed that was true, and so that was true. But now, knowing what I know now, I can literally, if someone's like, okay, just get on the happy train, I can literally shift myself in that way. And typically it's me doing that for myself, where I'm like, okay, time to get off the sad train onto the happy train. I can make that transition easily because I know the way to do it. Hence back to having the awareness and then knowing how to exercise the choice to select an alternative. So, so this really, it comes down to, essentially, if we can encapsulate what's happening, then certain areas we are running on autopilot. So if being sensitive doesn't feel like a choice, we might be running on autopilot in certain areas, just because we don't know there are other options, or we just assume that this is the truth and we've been paying attention to other things, or we've been, dealing with other things, and that's kind of, on our belief system, is just like, oh yeah, that is what it is, and we've never questioned. So part of today is just, I want to introduce this awareness and kind of the areas that maybe we're just running on autopilot, and that we can then decide to consciously choose something different if we want. So there's three areas of knowingness, of how to exercise the choice of whether to be sensitive or not. What is the alternative to being sensitive? What's the alternative to being easily offended or upset? So we come back to the definition of sensitivity. And the first thing, the alternatives to being easily offended or upset by things is understanding that emotions are a process. And how that process works, right? And this is the essence of my channel. If you have watched any of my other videos, this is essentially all I talk about all the time, is how emotions are actually a process, right? They're a triangle. They are formed by three aspects, right? Language, conditioning, physiology. And just like fire, this is the whole essence of this channel, is that realization that emotions aren't a thing, right? They aren't a thing that comes over you and takes control, right? And that's running on autopilot, just assuming that I'm angry and so I embody anger, I am anger, period, right? Because then the emotion is controlling you. Whereas gaining the awareness of emotions are a process, just like a fire is a process, right? When we're watching a flame, it's actually a process, right? It's oxidation. And so it's not a thing. It's not really a thing, but it looks like a thing. It moves and it makes light and it's hot and it looks like a thing, but it's actually a process happening. And so, when you throw water on the flame, you interrupt the process and the fire goes away. And this is the same thing with emotions. Emotions are a process. When you interrupt one of the patterns, the emotion stops. So, understanding that, and so if you're not with that awareness and that understanding, then we have a choice of then interrupting the process, as opposed to the process running on autopilot in our lives and being easily offended or, ruffled at the slightest offense happening to us automatically. It doesn't have to. That's what the the whole point is it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. That's where we have the choice, is in the awareness of the process, knowing what the sides are, and then muddling with them so that we then become conscious of the process and in control of the process. So kind of the subsets of that, and I will link above here my emotional mastery playlist. I have a lot of great videos explaining the triangle. If you haven't seen it yet, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Check that playlist out because it goes more in depth about this. So the kind of sub skills of, if controlling your emotions sounds, whoa, really big. This sounds like I can accept that it's a process. I don't know how to master it, when I'm in the height of something really that I've, angry, sad, I'm depressed, I'm whatever, I'm in it. When I'm in it, I don't know how to make that choice. What are the skills that we really need to then start muddling with this process? And again, I've talked about this in a lot of videos. I want to kind of reframe it in a different way today, but really it comes down to attention and meaning. Let's go to attention. So this is the part of, in the definition, quick to detect changes. All right, so the detection of the changes in your environment, the detection of the stimuli, we talk about this in the DOES acronym for being a sensitive person, the sensitivity to subtle stimuli. So it's one thing to detect it, right? And then what you do with that detection then is a choice. So we have millions of bits of data streaming through our senses every day. But what are the ones that we pay attention to? Now, these are the skills that we really need to start changing up if we want to become emotional, master our emotions and have sensitivity actually be a choice, is our ability to change our attention. Because again, where are you putting it? Are you choosing where to put your attention, or is your attention being grabbed by things, by situations, by people, by problems, and then, just held? So when I talk about dropping it like it's hot, I've made a lot of videos where I talk about one of the most important skills an HSP can learn is how to drop it when it's hot. Drop something when it's hot, when it's emotionally charged, drop it. Drop your attention. This is about shifting your attention. If you can do this, and you can do this, I promise you, I know it might feel difficult right now, but shifting your attention between, from something that's emotionally charged, shifting it off to something else, to distracting yourself, that keeps you in control of your attention. And when we talk about emotional mastery, being able to guide your attention to certain areas is very important. Again, this is something we don't want running on autopilot, because then it's not really a choice, right? If we're just drawn in and we can only fixate on something, being sensitive isn't a choice. Our attention is on autopilot, and so we cannot break ourselves away, and then everything else is cascading into it, right? Attention is importance. Where are you putting your importance? Where are you putting your importance on things? And that is, if you believe that you have control over your attention and exercising that, actually doing it daily, of practicing directing your attention to different areas, keeping them on the areas that are important, you're towards your goals, and away from ruminating, away from overthinking, away from worrying, that is an important skill and part of selecting the choice, being able to select the alternatives. And then the third one would be meaning. Meaning, how are you using your imagination? Are you using it to torment you or to support you? And I've talked about this, I've kind of danced around this topic a little bit, but we have a choice of how we frame things. If this is on autopilot for you, if your meaning or interpretation making mechanisms are on autopilot, if you always interpret things as an offense, right? This is the reaction part of quick to detect or react to slight changes, right? We can detect the change, We can choose not to put our attention on it, or not to put any meaning on it, or to assign a meaning that supports us instead of torments us. Meaning, how do we assign meaning? Again, if this is on autopilot, like I said, we're always going to interpret things as an insult, we're going to take it personally, it's going to hurt us. This is a loss. We get into habits of assigning meaning. So, in order to, find the alternatives in this, we have to be a little more creative and use our imagination, because really it is our imaginative faculty that assigns meaning in the first place. How we assign meaning is arbitrary. It might feel very real to us, like this really means that I lost something. That fixedness in imagination, because we're bringing in prediction, imagination, is what keeps us locked in the choice. Whereas we could say, this is going to work out for me. This is really going to work out for me. This is going to be great for me. This is going to add to who I am. I'm going to learn from this. These are alternative meanings that we can choose. We can choose that. We just have to be more flexible with our imagination and with our allowance of different meanings to exist, instead of just selecting the same meaning over and over again. So, and again, I talk about this in a lot of videos about the rock pile. The evidence that we get, the data that we receive from day to day is like our little rock. And we put it in a pile of whatever story we want to believe. And so somebody leaves our life, we can put it in the pile of, I am worthless, I am worthy of being abandoned, or we can put it in the pile of, I'm better off, I am okay, this person is gone, but I am still intact, and maybe even better off without them. We pick the belief pile that we want to enforce for each piece of data, and that is where we make a choice. Instead of letting it on autopilot fall into a pile, and that pile getting really big, and then saying, well, of course I believe I'm unworthy, because I have this huge pile of evidence right here. As the rock is being sorted, and that's kind of our cognitive processes as we're making a determination, drawing conclusions, making assumptions, we can choose to be like, I'm not going to take this personally. This is about someone else and not about me, and just releasing it. We can start to make that choice. So, is being sensitive a choice? Again, yes, if you have the awareness that there are other alternatives, and especially yes, if you know how to exercise that choice. And these are the areas where we can exercise choices in our life and take these areas off of autopilot. So I hope this helped you. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this video. And if you are a highly sensitive person looking to reclaim your conscious decision making in a lot of these areas, I can help you do that. I have a 3-month flammable to fireproof program, which helps you do just that with a lot of great tools and guided support. Check that out at my website below, emotionalfireacademy.com, and thanks for watching. Bye.